Hello you guys, it is Jason and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a great one because today I'm doing a deep dive into bronzer versus contour and what is the difference between the two. Everything that you need to know about bronzing and contouring is going to be in this video with a bonus tip of how I use both of these in my makeup routine. Stuff like this is the type of video that I think we need more of because it is more on the education of makeup than it is on, oh, let's put this bright color eyeshadow in our eye. So let me know what you guys think. I love doing these type of videos. I love, like, you know, doing the research, presenting it to you guys and being like, this is what it is. So let me know what you guys think. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So all I did was I popped on some foundation and now we're gonna go in with some cream contour. So cream contour is, I think, my favorite way of introducing contour into your routine because it's so easy and it's so foolproof that there's like a little to like slim chance that you can actually mess this up without being able to save it. Like the chances of you messing up tragically are very, very small. Cream contour comes in all different shapes, sizes, whatever. I have found that my favorite way to cream contour is to take a stick foundation or any foundation and get it in a couple shades darker than my actual skin and use that. So you can do whatever contour you want. There's sticks that are made specifically for contour. I like using a foundation. This is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus stick foundation in almond, and this just happens to be one of my favorites because the blendability on a foundation is so much better than a blendability on a contour stick. So I like using something like this. Anything will do. You can use a cream contour palette. This is so much more convenient, and usually when you get palettes, the only problem with palettes I find is that I don't use all of the shades. Like you guys will see in my Abh Contour Palette that I only use 2 shades out of the entire palette. So getting a palette is good and cool and all of that, but the usability for a palette is a lot smaller than just getting one product. So those are some things to keep in mind about when you're choosing a contour, and you know, kind of just keep in mind, like, you know, like what is the usability of this beyond just one thing. So that's kind of the thing. So contour, let's talk about contour for 1 second. So contour comes in a cream or a powder. That's pretty standard. So contour is mainly used for shaping the face. So when you're using a contour, you want to be able to really shape the face, make your face look slimmer, make everything look more symmetrical. So keywords for contouring are structure, dimension, and symmetry. Those are the 3 things that you're kind of looking for when you're contouring. Now placement. Placement is another thing, and I think placement is the key to knowing what the difference between bronzer and contour is. So the placement is very different. So placement for a contour is going to be underneath the cheekbones, temples, the nose, if you're contouring your nose, the jawline. Those are kind of like the key places. Everything else is kind of, you know, you can make it work. Something that I read in a Charlotte Tilbury article that I thought was really, really important was how, like, she said, follow the hollow. That's so true. So wherever your skin kind of hollows out, wherever you want to create shadows, that's exactly where you're going to put your contour. So let's go ahead and do this in real time. I've used this so much. There's like a little tiny bit left. Like that's all that's left in this foundation stick. So, okay, we're going to take, and the best way to do this, I already have like little divots and I know exactly where my contour is supposed to go. But the best way to do it is to kind of suck in your cheek. So, and place right in that hollow. So just kind of place it right there and drag. And see, this is where you don't really have to make clear, concise lines because everything is gonna be blended out anyways. So I'm just gonna go in on the other side, just like that. And notice I haven't put on my concealer yet. I personally, honestly, have a very like routine way of doing things, and I hate putting on my concealer before my cream contour because I feel like if I blend the cream contour up, which we're going to do anyways, if I blend it up, you're not going to be able to, like, it might make my concealer look muddy. So I like to go in with my cream contour first and then really shape things up with my concealer. So these two are two of the places that you need it. The temples. Now the temples can go one of two ways. So you can either do like this and kind of keep the forehead more highlighted, or what you can do is you can just go towards the hairline. I personally like to do this more than going into the hairline, just because I hate how greasy my hair looks after I contour. So then it's obviously the jawline, and the jawline you just want to make one line, and then I like to go right underneath my chin, like where that little divot for your chin is, and then do one line like this. If you kind of just do one line all across your chin, I feel like it doesn't give dimension. Like this little part that doesn't have any product is going to give us a little bit more dimension. And then also along the sides of your nose. And this is, if you're a beginner and you're trying to nose contour and you really want that super snatched look, this is gonna be one of the easiest ways to learn. So now we're gonna blend this guy out. And to do that, I'm just gonna go in with my Tati Blendiful. I just like this because you can really get into your cheeks and everything like that easily. So I'm just gonna blend this guy up, and when you're blending this guy out, you never want to drag it down. You always want to drag it up because you want that lifted effect. And for your nose, if you want a more natural looking contour, what you can do is you can even start from like the top of your brow. I just feel like this looks so much better and so much more natural for my personal face, but you can try it out and see how you feel about how your contour looks. And that's the most important thing. You can learn all of these tips and tricks and everything like that, and then try them on yourself, and you might find that you need to tweak it a little bit, and that's totally fine. Makeup is super, super personal. So you do what you need to do. And the other reason why I don't really bring product all the way up to like my eyebrow is because I tap this product up anyways. So even though I didn't put product right there, it still kind of goes up because that's the way I tap it up. And now you can kind of tell it looks very natural. It doesn't look like much, but once you start layering like your contour and like your bronzer and everything like that on, it just gives a really, really nice like very shaded effect, and you don't have to work as hard on your powder contour or your powder bronzer at all, because it's just like you already have that definition. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop on some concealer, set the rest of my face, do my eye makeup and stuff like that, and then come back and then we'll do our bronzing and our contouring together, and I'll show you guys the difference between the two. Alright you guys, so I did the rest of my makeup off camera. So let's talk about bronzing and contouring for a second. So the main difference between the two is the fact that contours are usually a lot more cool tone and bronzers are usually a lot more warm tone. Let's look at the ABH Contour Palette. This was my go-to contour and bronzer palette because it is, I mean, I've hit pan. So if we kind of take a look at these two, right? These are a lot more neutral toned and a little bit warm toned. They're not too warm toned. And this one is definitely cool tone. The other difference is that most contours are matte and bronzers are usually shimmery. I don't personally like a shimmery bronzer, but it is a preferred method. When we think about bronzing, we think of bronzing as more sort of warming up the skin where the sun would naturally hit you. So some of the highest points of your face are where your bronzer is going to go, because it is a little bit more shimmery and it is that tan look, like I just came back from vacation type of look. Also with bronzer, you want it to be one shade lighter than your contour color. So one of my favorites is to go into, I think all of the like ABH bronzer, and I think my favorite shade out of all of them is this tawny shade, just because it is a little bit more warm tone. However, it is, when you swatch it, it is more of that gray tone. My only problem with a super cool tone contour is I never want to look gray or ashy. because some contours can do that to you where you look kind of like ashy on one side, and on the flip side you never want to put a contour on that is too, like something like this for example. This came out of my artistry kit. This is a lot darker, and like the thing with something a lot darker and a lot more orange is that it will give you that muddy effect. So you don't want to turn your head and have like a muddy contour either. So it's finding that in between balance that is going to really help be the best of both worlds. So let's move on to brushes, because that's really important. So brushes for contouring. So contouring brushes, you want them to be as precise as possible. So this brush is my personal favorite. If you guys have been on my channel for a while, you know that this brush, I love it so much. I got it from Sally's, I believe, and it's just a fan kabuki brush. It's very similar to Scott Barnes 264 brush, but this is very defined. You can play, like the placement is very like precise, right? This is a Morphe brush. This is comparable to their G9. They stopped making this particular brush, but the Morphe G9 is the same sort of thing. It's like a fluffy but tapered brush. You want something that's tapered because it's really gonna help be very precise, and then you can blend it out. Another example of a brush similar to that one is this Wet n Wild P65 brush. This is the same sort of shape. It's very fluffy and it's tapered. So that's the kind of brush that you would need for contour. There's a bunch of other things you can use. You can totally use an angled brush. The only caveat with this though is that it is a little bit more, it does have a little, like it's more wide than some of these brushes, so it doesn't give you as much precision as you might like. But angled brushes are definitely a good starter brush as well. You just have to be careful. This is really actually good for, the angled brush is really good if you want to blend out that cream contour. It's really good because it does give you more flexibility. And that's honestly about it. Important, there's like a Nars brush. This is an Ellen Tracy one. It is a dupe for that one, but it's that Nars flat brush, that flat contour brush that really does get right into it, and you can place it. Like one thing with the contour is that you want to place with purpose. So if you're placing it and you have like a brush that's a lot more fluffy, it's gonna be harder to place exactly where you want it. Something like this, which is more dense and it's very small, is going to help you put the product exactly where you need it, and you can really go in and tap the product out. But I would use this only for cream, just because this is very dense, so you don't want to pick up too much product and then just lay it on, because that will give you a muddy look and you don't want that. So you want to go in with something fluffier when you're going in with your powder products, because this will help you deposit just the right amount of product, and then you can go in and blend it out with this guy. Fluffier brushes, the less product it will pick up, the denser it is, the more product it will pick up, especially with powders. So just kind of a caveat there. You really want your brush for contour to be very precise, very tapered, and very like pointy, and make sure that it is very precise, right? So for bronzer, it's the complete opposite. You want something that's big. So this Luxie brush is perfect. This is large powder brush. This Sedona 376 brush. This Wet n Wild, I forgot what it's called. It doesn't have a name. But again, all you want, this is also a really good brush. I got this so long ago, and it's shedding really hardcore, but this is one of my favorite brushes because it's very fluffy, but then it has like a tapered top. So any sort of fluffy brush that you have, it's not super densely packed, it's very soft to the touch. This will help you be able to go in and lay down your contour and make sure that it's very buffed out and it's not super intense. Your bronzer, you want it to be just like your highlight. You don't want to overdo it. You want to be able to have that natural wash. And bronzing is really great for someone who likes the no makeup look, because it's a nice way to bring some warmth back into your face after foundation. And it is a really easy way to kind of just have that like tan, just came back from vacation type of look. Now that we've talked a little bit about brushes, let's go ahead and talk about placement, because placement is key. So with your contour, as you can see, like with our cream contour, that's where we would place our contour, right? For our bronzer, we'd place it, this is our contour, we'd place it right above and just kind of wash over it. So I can show you guys a little bit. This is also a really good bronzer brush. This is a Zoeva 106 powder brush. So we're gonna go in, I'm gonna go in with Tawny from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna bronze the perimeter of my face. So you really want to go in on the temples, and you want to make that 3. So you want to go 1, 2, or just like that. That's a 3, right? And you want to make sure that you're dusting the product just like so. And you can kind of tell this is a lot more bronze than this is, and there's a lot more warmth going on this side. So that's kind of how it goes, and you can kind of tell because we already cream contoured, you don't need to put a powder contour on because it already has that definition. And with the bronzer, it just kind of brings in a little bit more warmth, but it's still very, very subtle. So that's kind of the placement of the bronzer. Now, this is my favorite thing. Me personally, I love to bronzer, and that is taking both of those steps and meshing them together. So a great product for that is the Morphe Bronzer and Contours, the Brontours. I have, I think, a few shades. I have 2 shades. So I have this one. This one's called Frenemy. So this has a bronzy shot side, and then it also has a highlight. What I like to do with my personal contour is I like to go in with a very defined brush. This brush, for example. I'll go in with this guy, and I'll go in with just a matte bronzer. And what I'll do is, instead of going with a bronzer, this is breaking a little bit of a rule, but what I'll do is I'll go into that little nook that we created, and I'll just blend up. So I'll first place the shade on where my contour is, and then I'll blend upwards. Just because, for me personally, that's what works. And for me, I like to have a warmer contour because I feel like my overall undertone is very warm. So I like to do that. And then, especially through taking a brush like this, if you just brush it up, it gives you both that contour and bronzer, or contoured and bronzed look. So that's like my little shortcut that I've really found is helpful, and it's one of my favorite things to do. Like, even on clients, I feel like it just creates a more cohesive look, and especially if you've already contoured underneath, you can already tell that there is. So you can kind of tell right here, this is where I contoured my way, and then this is just bronzing how you're typically supposed to bronze. So I just like to add a little tiny bit, and bam. And I always like to run my brush and whatever product's left on my temples. It's not super intense up there because I don't want that to be super warm. So I'll just go in, and then with my nose contour, this brush is the perfect size where I can just kind of run it along my nose, and then I have like a really, really pretty bronzed but still lifted and sculpted vibe. And so a lot of people tell you like, oh, don't wear like your bronzer as your contour, and that, I feel like that depends. If you're using something like this I used for a really, really long time, I still go back to it, it's like a very tried and true. So if you're using something like this, where like these 2 shades, if you use those 2 shades as your contour, you're gonna be fine because they still have a very neutral sort of tone underneath. So it's not gonna look super muddy. You want to stay away from anything that is super orange. Like this guy is the bronzer in Mahogany. You want to stay away from that. You want to stay away from anything that's like super shimmery. So this works great for like a matte bronzer. And like even with this tawny shade, it has more of a cool tone undertone. And that's what you want. You don't want it to be, you either want it to be neutral or you want it to be just warm, like just a tad warm enough so that you can kind of play around with it and kind of see. And another thing is, I think the bottom line with all of this is that do whatever makes you feel more confident. For me, I always liked using my bronzer as my contour as well, and I think with the right tools it works, and at least it does for me. And so I've used brushes like this and really gone in and kind of blended out and blended upwards. I've always gotten compliments on my contour, so I feel confident in knowing that my contour is done well. And so that's like probably the easiest way to kind of get into contouring, is that you cream contour. That's like the most like #1 way is to cream contour, because it's so much easier. You get to play around, you get to really realize where your spots are, where you're gonna love to contour. I know some people who like to contour not only here, but they like to drag it down. That looks absolutely terrible on me because I have a long face and it just doesn't look good on me. So really play around and kind of find your little happy places. So for me, it's that basic, like this is a brush that I would suggest if you can find one. There's a Milani one. It's called a Kabuki fan brush that is really, really good as well. But this brush is just so good for placement, and it's just like bam, bam, bam. There you go. So stuff like this is like a beginner friendly hack of like using something like this is going to make your life 10 times easier when it comes to placement and figuring out exactly where you want it. So that's another hack, and kind of making sure that everything looks blended. You can get away with pretty much doing anything as long as it looks blended. So the other thing that I would like to say is that go in light-handed. So, you know, I've gotten to a place where I can go and I know exactly how much product I'll need. And even with like these, like trying these out, I had to like really like go light-handed because these are a little bit heavier, and they are very pigmented. So the other thing that is very true for pretty much every type of makeup that you do is go light-handed so that you can blend it out and then add more. It's so much easier to add more than it is to blend whatever you have it look like a patchy mess. So, you know, take your time, blend everything as much as you possibly can, because that will help so much. It'll help an incredible amount, and you'll see the difference. You'll really be able to see the difference when you really take your time and you really layer things up. It'll just have a nicer, cleaner look. So that's really important. Oh, the last thing that I did want to point out with contour or like bronzer or anything like that is if you are really obsessed with that like really chiseled out cheekbone, the one thing that you can do that is very, very easy, it's not gonna be too intense or anything like that, is you take a sponge, a little blendiful, it doesn't matter what it is, go in with your face powder. Go in with your face powder or an under eye powder or a loose powder or whatever it is, and just go in and load it up on your, I'm just using my face powder that I used on my face. I used the LA Girl Pro Face Pressed Powder. I really, really like this one. I use the shade Buff. This is one of my ride or dies. They make really, really good products. So if you're a beginner and you want to stay on a budget, definitely check them out because they have some really, really good products. So now that we have our pressed powder on here, you're just going to go right underneath where your contour is and just clean up that line. And the reason why I like to do it with my pressed powder instead of doing it with a translucent powder is because it's going to look so much more cohesive and it's not going to give you that white cast. I've really been into doing a more natural and flawless base. So for me, I don't go in with the translucent powder as much anymore, just because I feel like I like the way that my face looks when everything is kind of more cohesive. But again, you can use a loose powder. I really like using the wet. When I did use just like a translucent powder, I really liked using this guy. This is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus translucent powder. This is really, really good. Doesn't leave too much of a white cast, but I just like to use a pressed powder because it has honestly less powder. I would warn someone who does have drier skin, you don't want to pack on the loose powder. I have really been noticing that ever since I started not wearing as much powder on my skin has just been so much happier, because I used to really pack on the powder, and it's fine because it really does give a really nice lay down and look, but you obviously have to do whatever's best for your skin type. And for me, that's just kind of laying it back with the powder. Using pressed powders is a really good hack. Using powders like this is the Brighten Up powder from Essence. I have literally beat this horse to the ground. Using stuff like this really does help brighten everything up. And what you could really do with this, honestly, if you wanted that super defined look, I will do a video on this where it's like a no foundation look, and you're just using cream contour and concealer to really brighten up the perimeter of your face, which I feel like is a really good makeup lesson on its own. Alright, you guys, so here's the final look. So I absolutely love doing these kind of videos. It took me so long to really know all of these different things about makeup, so I love sharing them with you guys, just in case you guys are on the same makeup journey as I am. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what other kinds of videos that you guys want to have, or want to see from me. If there's anything that you're like, I have no idea how to do this, shoot me a message or a comment down below, and I'd be more than happy to make a whole dedicated video about it, because that is what I like doing. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what other kinds of videos you guys want to see from me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. You are helping my dreams come true. I love you so much, and I will see you in a video super soon. Mwah. Bye guys.